So let's now take a look at vRealize Suite and Operations Insight from a product packaging and licensing perspective. The first thing to understand is the naming conventions and mapping that we're using with vRealize. And just to be clear and kind of level set, let's go ahead and take a look here. So previously we had vCenter Operations, Cloud Automation, ITBM, vCloud Director. There were so many different naming conventions being applied, and although they were all great and they all made sense alone, they didn't necessarily always make sense together. So now inside of vRealize we're seeing a much more cohesive vision being applied here. vCenter Operations Manager is now vRealize Operations. vCloud Automation Center is now vRealize Automation. And IT Business Management now becomes part of the family with vRealize Business. Additionally, you'll see over here on the far right the inclusion of the word air. Effectively, just remember that anytime you see the word air, you're talking about an as-a-service offering. You're going to be seeing more about these as we progress. This includes vRealize Air Operations, vRealize Air Automation, Air Business, as well as vCloud Air. So how do you start in talking to your customers inside of this space? It's really about customer maturity. The first step, customers are looking at, they're leveraging vSphere, maybe they're leveraging vSOM, they're heavily entrenched inside of virtualization, and it's not, if not already, become the de facto way that they are deploying their infrastructure. As they move up the arc, they're going to be looking at vSOM plus perhaps vRealize Operations Insight, and we'll talk about what's included there. This is, at that point, going to be a transactional play with the customer. It's not going to require an ELA at this point. Now they're looking at managed virtualization at a very, very high level. They move further up the arc, and we're looking at the introduction and utilization of vCloud Suite, either advanced or enterprise. And at that point, they're creating a vSphere-based private cloud. The last step of the journey is looking at vRealize Suite. That's when they're looking at full hybrid cloud, completely heterogeneous environments and data centers, the ability to manage, monitor, and remediate across disparate and heterogeneous physical, virtual, and cloud-based resources, being completely agnostic to whatever they have and being able to provide the same insight, guidance, monitoring into all of it. So let's first look at vRealize Suite. vRealize Suite really is, in whole, a cloud management platform, in the true sense of the word. It aggregates capabilities of cloud automation, operations, business management, all into one single offering. And it does so purpose-built for heterogeneous environments, where customers might be running multiple different hypervisors, multiple different hardware platforms, might have multiple different clouds. This is where vRealize Suite, Advanced, and Enterprise, this is what it's built for. Giving them log insight for unstructured data, operations for structured data and performance metrics, cloud automation for on-demand utilization and consumption of resources, and then ITBM or vRealize Business, so that they can then determine, based upon their business needs, what's going to be the most cost efficient for them going forward. A question that comes up a lot is in talking about the interplay from a positioning perspective between vCloud Suite and vRealize Suite. And so I think that this diagram explains it pretty well, but let's just take a very quick walkthrough. vCloud Suite customers, in this case we have somebody using vCloud Suite Advanced, they're going to be using Enterprise Plus, vCloud Director, as well as networking and security, and they're going to have operations and automation plugged in. It's really just a dotted line for them to go over to vRealize Business Advanced as well as Log Insight, and be able to combine those into their infrastructure, giving them a full holistic view of their vSphere based infrastructure, as well as, you'll notice here on the bottom, whatever they have in BYOI. So BYOI gives you bring your own infrastructure. So when you're talking about vSphere or non-vSphere, now you see that the customer has the ability not only to enhance what they're doing inside of their vSphere environment, but also to spread that across to their non-vSphere environment as well. The same is exactly true for customers that are using vCloud Suite Enterprise. Really, the big difference there is the customer who's using vCloud Suite Enterprise is more than likely using Site Recovery Manager Enterprise, and they have multiple sites that they are protecting. Maybe they have a primary, secondary, even a tertiary site. Integrating vRealize Suite Enterprise on top of that, again, gives them the ability to have vRealize Business, Log Insight, Automation, Operations Enterprise, and to be able to do this along with their bring your own infrastructure, so their vSphere and non-vSphere infrastructure across multiple physical data centers and multiple clouds. So how do you position, how do you circle around this conversation when we're talking about vRealize Suite? So those of you who have gone through and seen my extreme whiteboarding sessions are familiar with the idea of aligning the conversation to the right role and the right responsibility and the right concern. So inside of this space, we're probably talking to people that are IT directors, vice presidents of infrastructure, vice presidents of operations, etc. The folks that are going to be concerned with compliance, monitoring, managing, leveraging existing investments, scalability, flexibility, etc., etc. So how do you determine in that conversation if you need to move toward vCloud Suite or whether you need to move toward vRealize Suite? Let's look at a few questions. So if you've got a large enterprise, but it's really just a vSphere based private cloud, it's definitely vCloud Suite. If they're looking at just wanting additional information for capacity, performance, management, and predictive analysis around vSphere, it's just vCloud Suite. However, if they're looking at the ability to have extendable clouds, multiple different heterogeneous environments, the ability to have large distributed on-prem versus off-prem hybrid clouds, etc., and being able to manage this, then we're looking at vRealize Suite. And I think it goes without saying that the folks that are going to be looking at vRealize Suite are really going to be your early technical adopters. Those people that are out there on the bleeding edge of industry and are expanding and leading the way for everyone else. So some qualifying questions to get you started when we're looking at vRealize Suite conversations. Is it just vSphere only? Is it just on-premise? Then vCloud Suite. Are they wanting to manage a small number of non-vSphere workloads, maybe other hypervisors or a physical box or a different public cloud? Then vCloud Suite plus vRealize Suite to give them all of that capability together. However, if the conversation turns directly to enterprise-wide management, governance across EC2, etc., vRealize Suite needs to be top of mind and top of conversation. vRealize Suite represents the ELA motion for vRealize. But now let's take a look at the transactional motion that we mentioned before for customers that are moving from vSphere with operations management and growing up inside of that maturity. Operations Insight gives customers the ability to purchase as an add-on to vSOM and per CPU Operations Advanced as well as Log Insight. So they're going to be moving away from the non-customized dashboards and the non-customized reporting and widgets into a full view of their structured and unstructured data from performance through logging. So this is a big step forward for customers. Log Insight 2.5 is a minor release for us, but it represents a clear point in vision cohesion when we're looking at what this means inside of Operations Insight. In being able to have customers not only now have customizable dashboards and widgets and marketplace integrations, but do the same down to the host level for their unstructured data, including things like syslog forwarding to third parties for problem resolution of unstructured data, which in many cases can be a lot like finding a needle in a needle stack. So how does Log Insight play along with operations? Why are they different? Why are they complementary? This is the story of Operations Insight and exactly how to position it with your customers. Operations does a fantastic job of structured data, performance metrics, alerts, events, etc. All of this is what Operations does better than anything else. However, what it doesn't do is deal with unstructured data, logs, messages, system identifications and security, etc. This is not at all what Operations does, but this is exactly what Log Insight specializes in. Marrying these two products together gives us the ability to give customers a clear hold around their structured events, metrics, alerts, as well as their logs and messages, can be managed either singularly and information passed between the two, or can be managed bicamerally so that if they have multiple people managing their infrastructure, that information definitions can be created from either end and shared with the other. There's lots of different ways to approach it. So some of the benefits of Operations Insight. I've never really been one into the percentages, but if we completely forget about the percentages here and just look at the key intangible benefits, they're going to have faster problem resolution. Because if you can identify it quicker, you can solve it quicker. And if they're dealing with advanced, they're going to have the ability to apply remediation based upon our best practices, theirs, or even tribal knowledge to make those mundane tasks more efficient. And you're also going to see an improvement in cost reduction and capital reduction because you're going to be purchasing less because you're going to be far more efficient, which improves your return on investment. And you're also going to have a much lower application downtime because if we can predict what's happening, we can steer around it and circumvent the issues more effectively. So if we look at a compatibility map and what do these different features do inside of Operations Management and Operations Insight? Well, again, I think it's pretty clear. Inside of Operations Management, you're getting the core functionality of vSphere with operations. But as you move over into Operations Insight, you're also getting the ability to look at SAN storage analytics, management packs, because again, you're moving into advanced. And you're also getting Log Insight in tow. So having the ability to deal with vSphere hardening, to look at compliance metrics, all of the things that we talked about in the vROps module, all get lit up inside of vRealize Operations Insight for the customer. So now let's take a look at pricing and licensing for the products. So you have vRealize Suite. Again, this is an ELA. You have Operations Insight for commercial and SMB. This is going to be transactionally available. And then on a go forward, you're going to see SaaS offerings with vRealize Air Automation, which is going to be coming soon. So if we recap on the summary of new management offerings, we have vRealize Suite both in standard and advanced. And then we also have Operations Insight. Again, important to remember, vRealize Suite is ELA, and for enterprise type customers. Watch for customers that are talking about heterogeneous management, they're talking about hybrid clouds, they're talking about governance, etc. For Operations Insight, this is for your customers available CPUs and add-on to vSOM for commercial and mid-market, where they're already inside of vSphere or they're already using vSOM and they want that next step up. If they're thinking about Operations Advanced, Operations Insight is a great way to go. In the other section, we talked about vRealize Operation 6. And to wrap up today, we're going to be talking about the vSphere optimization assessment as well. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. Really appreciate your attendance. Be sure to check out additional video content that's going to be made available here. And also, be sure to sign up for additional broadcasts of these sessions as we progress through the quarter. We've got a ton of great topics coming up, and I look forward to seeing you then.